So here's another fun finding that came from Malcolm Gristham's research there at Imperial College in terms of why the public adopts an anti-narrative view, but the scientific community overwhelmingly embraces it. And it comes down to that part of the discourse on how we realize what we're going to adopt as our own personal narrative. And this is the argument that he uses. The engineering community, scientific community, tends to favor empiricism, fact, what can be demonstrated, and that causes them to go into STEM disciplines. But the general public has a majority that favor what would be considered a common sense approach. What feels right? What does your gut tell you? And when you look at the difference there, it makes a lot of sense in terms of how that would give rise to this incredible dichotomy. And one of the examples that he gives is in nuclear waste management. So when it comes to the radioactive waste from the nuclear fuel cycle, what we've done is we've taken natural radioactivity from the earth and we've concentrated it so that we can create fission and extract that heat quickly to boil water and make electricity. And although that radioactivity came from the earth, it was naturally there at a certain level. We want to return it to the earth. But the approach that we take in the engineering community is we don't adopt the idea that the solution of pollution is dilution. What we say is that we don't want to do that because we could dilute nuclear waste and turn it into a tiny fraction of the natural radioactivity that's already in the environment so that it becomes a negligible component. But what we do is we say, no, we don't want to do that because it's so easily abused, right? If you just take all of your waste and grind it up into powder and then scatter it all over the earth, then yeah, that would be sufficiently dilute in principle to not have any kind of measurable medical effects. But then the potential for somebody to abuse that becomes really, really tempting and potentially would become an expected event. And so by letting it stay concentrated, we can control it and keep a safety envelope around it. Yet the common sense approach is if it's really so safe and you can handle it so well, why are you burying it a mile underground? If it's really something that we can handle and maintain, why does it need to be a mile underground? That just doesn't sit right with me. Something's wrong. What are you not telling me? I don't trust you anymore. And so that was his argument as to how the scientific community could have one narrative, but the public could have a completely different narrative. And it's just by the way that we interpret reality and what we decide gives something truthiness. So I thought that was kind of exciting. It really resonated with me when I looked at the comments that people have on this TikTok channel in terms of disagreeing with the science and adopting an anti-nuclear narrative. So I hope that is something that you found insightful. I found it quite impressive in terms of the explaining why things are the way that they are.